The prison guards opened the cell door early that morning. One of them looked at the prisoner and said, "Pack your things, you're being released today." Most prisoners would celebrate a moment like this, but this prisoner didn't move. He simply sat on the edge of his bed staring at the floor. The guard frowned and repeated his words. "Did you hear me? You're free." Slowly, the prisoner looked up. His voice was calm. "I can't leave." The guards exchanged confused looks. They had never heard a prisoner refuse freedom before. After 10 long years behind bars, this man was finally being released, but he refused to walk out of the prison. The prison warden was called immediately. When the warden arrived, he expected to see an emotional man ready to leave, but instead the prisoner looked serious, almost afraid. The warden sat down across from him and asked calmly, "Why are you refusing your release?" The prisoner hesitated for a moment, then he whispered something strange. "If I leave this prison, I will die." The room suddenly became silent. The guards looked at each other. The warden leaned forward and asked, "What do you mean?" The prisoner took a deep breath and said, "For 10 years I have watched everything inside this prison." Then he slowly looked toward the door and continued, "There are people outside who believe I know something." The warden frowned and asked, "What kind of people?" The prisoner slowly shook his head and replied, "Dangerous people." He continued speaking quietly. "During my first year here, I saw something I was never supposed to see." The guards listened carefully as he continued his story. One night, 2 men came to visit another prisoner. They thought nobody was watching them, but I saw everything. The prisoner lowered his voice and said, "They were planning something illegal, something big." The warden asked him quietly, "Why didn't you tell anyone?" The prisoner sighed and said, "Because they saw me too." The guards felt a chill run through the room. The prisoner continued speaking, "They told me if I ever left prison, they would find me." The warden stayed silent for a moment before asking another question. "Do you remember their faces?" The prisoner nodded slowly and said, "Yes." The warden stood up and walked toward the door. He told one of the guards to bring the prison security files. A few minutes later, the guard returned, carrying a folder filled with photographs of visitors who had entered the prison over the years. The warden placed the photos on the table and said calmly, "Show me the men you saw that night." The prisoner carefully looked through the photos one by one. His hands were slightly shaking. Suddenly, he stopped moving. His finger slowly pointed to one photo, and he said quietly, "This one." The room became silent again. The warden picked up the photo, and his expression immediately changed, because the man in the photo was not a criminal. He was a powerful businessman, someone with influence and connections everywhere. The warden slowly closed the folder and looked at the prisoner again. "You may have just revealed something much bigger than you think." The prisoner swallowed nervously and asked, "So can I stay here?" The warden paused for a moment before answering, "No, you're not staying here." The prisoner looked shocked, but the warden continued speaking. "We're putting you under protection because if what you said is true, this story is only beginning."